LinkedIn groups are also very powerful, but they operate differently than Facebook groups. The Facebook groups, they are just defined in a way that you have to decide whether or not you want to have a massive group or you want to have a very, closely knit 30 or 50 people.
Hola, hola, ¿qué tal? Francis Prado here. Today we have a special edition of Carpo con Chingones, and it's going to be in an English version. We have Shaun Cassidy here today. I'm very honored to have Shaun Cassidy. I met Shaun 10 years ago, and till this day, I still cherish the tips and the mentoring and all the support he's given me with Hanging Secrets and also with my personal brand. So without further ado, I'd like to present Shaun Cassidy. Welcome to Carpo con Chingones. He's called and known here in San Diego as the Master Connector and networking events here in San Diego, California. Shaun Cassidy.
Well, I'm so glad to be on the show. I'm so glad to see how it's progressed, the show, and I mean, wow, a decade. Can't believe we've known each other for over like a decade. That's amazing. And we've been collaborating and talking for that long, and just amazing. Yeah. It's really an honor to be on the show and kind of give my tips along the way of what we're talking about for new entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs out there that are talking about this, people with great ideas. It's really some of the things that people call me as a genius whisperer. And I don't know, I didn't make up that word, but I meet somebody that has genius. And like 10 years ago, I met Frances, which I think is a genius. I mean, she's a business and creative genius. And my work was to assist that genius, to help that genius along. And, that's really what my work is about.
And, Shaun, now that I look back at the 10 years and I could actually pinpoint the things that you helped me on, back 10 years ago, I didn't realize what you were doing. And as the years have gone on, I understand, you helped me plant the seeds. Hanging Secrets was the invention that I was currently working on and needed some help to get it out there. Because again, as an inventor, you think all you have to do is an invented product and everything else. Because to say, boy, was I a rude awakening and a lot of humble pie. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what I didn't understand then that I appreciate and understand now, that you are also helping me cultivate and plant the seeds for my personal brand. That was two things that you were doing hand to hand that at the time I didn't realize how important and how valuable that is to me today, 10 years later, and especially on LinkedIn. So I think as an entrepreneur, that's where I feel that was the biggest aha moment, that you were helping me build and plant the seeds for my personal brand and how important that is for entrepreneurs. Can we start there?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I think we'll get on the road and we'll start with that concept and that idea. Well, my background with LinkedIn goes really early. I was the early beta tester of that software, where basically it's the granddaddy of social media. A lot of people don't know that. They don't know, like, really the first investor in Facebook is the creative LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman. And so it goes really back to the invention of social media. And my background really intersects between e-commerce and social media in my early life. So I was part of a startup of an internet company. People know today it's called Travelocity. It was the online travel company. I was the one that brought in the concept of called the Roaming Gnome for Travelocity that went viral all over the world. And that was my first experience with viral marketing, or how ideas could spread in a viral way. And then while I was there, that was the invention and the development of social media. I mean, e-commerce was always around. It was really the thing that would disrupt our lives, how you could buy things and products and services online. And it had a profound impact working inside of that early life of what would be e-commerce in our society, really the invention of the internet and how the internet would change our lives. But then the social space came in, and when they asked me to do the beta of LinkedIn, early on to do the beta and to see the flaws in the software, it became apparent to me that relationships and access to people was the most important thing you could do in business.
Okay, wait a minute. Repeat that again, because I think that's
Well, the access to people in business. Well, I often am quoted this idea when I meet people. I say we don't do work with inanimate objects. We don't do them with, animals and plants. Even though I love animals and plants, I think they're beautiful. But we don't do business with them. We do them with other human beings. So to accelerate the access to other human beings is to accelerate business.
The foundation of connections.
So relationships, everything in business is relationship driven.
And for me, Shaun, being on LinkedIn and understanding before, until this day, every now and then I run into to entrepreneurs, and the first thing I ask them, are you connected on LinkedIn? And about 60% of the entrepreneurs that I interview in Spanish, about 60% are not on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they have successful businesses, but they're not on LinkedIn. And what opportunities, I know what opportunities they're missing by not being on LinkedIn. Can you identify a few of them for me?
Well, LinkedIn allows you to carve an online brand, and then it allows you to carve that brand into the corporate world. And so all the Fortune 500s are listed there, all the vice presidents, all the CEOs, all the entertainment executives. Anybody you can think in an industry is listed in that software. And so what people don't understand between Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X now, all those areas, is that in LinkedIn, you have the corporate data. You have the actual corporations. And what LinkedIn really is known as is a recruiting space. But that's not the way I've ever used it. I've never used it as a recruiting space. I've always used it as a corporate intelligence business space. So the information in LinkedIn really gets you access to people of influence at a much faster rate than any of the other social spaces.
And I can vouch for that, because as an entrepreneur, and Hanging Secrets was in the early starts, my best opportunities for Hanging Secrets came through LinkedIn connections. That's how people were able to reach out to me. And now I use it as, okay, how do I connect with people that I don't have access to, or that I'm not invited to these special networking events, but I could grab their attention on LinkedIn, either by providing a post, creating a post, or just simply sending them a message.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the best approach, Shaun, when we're on LinkedIn, as to go after, well, I don't want to say go after, but connecting and networking with someone that you want to? What would you recommend?
In the early aspects of the social and internet space, a concept got developed into a name, and it was called social influence. And then another concept of that is called social commerce. Social commerce relates to e-commerce, but it also relates to a personal brand. Access to people is access to things. And in LinkedIn, what you're looking at is really thinking about what lane you're in. So, for example, you're an inventor, right? So as an inventor, we have to get access to things that will bring an inventor attention. We'll get access to the right people, right publications, the right media, the right people that would want to know about the invention, right? Would we want to purchase the product? Would want to do that. So for each person that I think of, it's kind of unique for what they do. But the first thing you have to do is, what lane are you in, right? What lane are you in? And by knowing what lane you're in, you can then build out the access points to those people.
Which I did, thanks to you. Which I did. I have a lot.
And at the beginning, it was very like, what is going on, right? It seems like we're doing data science. I thought we were going to do business development. No, my work really has a lot to do with data science related to business development, yes.
And that's how my LinkedIn profile started. I started connecting and creating my community. You call it lanes, and I converted those lanes into communities of inventors. And that has worked really well for me, because again, as inventors, and any entrepreneurs, we need to support one another. It's not just going in there to see who I could benefit from, right? It's also sharing and connecting with other inventors that are at different stages, so that we can help one another. So I that's how I remember starting out my LinkedIn. And now I've changed lanes, or I have multiple lanes. And I believe that's where the early planting of the seeds of starting my LinkedIn account has really evolved, and it's evolved with what I'm doing now. So now I'm connecting with creatives on LinkedIn using that same technique that you taught me years ago.
Well, when I think about things with it, there's people out there that know how to use LinkedIn. There's people that know how to write for LinkedIn. But what I'm thinking is how to use information in LinkedIn.
Give me an example.
Right? So,
please.
Example is, right, so you have corporate data in an area, right? And everybody has a business directory listed. So here in the local area, you could say, wow, there's a company called Qualcomm. And if you said, oh, I wanted to do something with Qualcomm Ventures, which invest in companies, or if I wanted to do something like that, could I actually do that from Facebook? Could I find an email and then email a vice president or get access to that? Or what I could actually do is look at the data of the board of directors of the entire venture capital space, go into LinkedIn, open up that directory, and interconnect into all of them.
That's powerful. That is powerful. And Shaun, when we're on LinkedIn and creating posts, and now that AI has started entering, and we're starting to know a little bit more about AI, how do you, or what do you feel that's going to change the landscape or the dynamic of LinkedIn? How do you think that's going to change, or what tools can we use, or how can we use that to our advantage?
Well, LinkedIn got bought by Microsoft, so at some point it became a Microsoft product, and of course Microsoft is heavy also in the idea of AI. I see a lot of people using AI now to craft their profiles, and I think that's a really good tool to do that with ChatGPT. You can help craft it, by putting there and correlating information and crafting how you would write your profiles. The other part of the AI world is to say, oh, I need a certain amount, I need the people, and I need you to list their links and URLs for LinkedIn. And I want you to make it a complete directory for me, and you put it in chat, and then it breaks down and it hyperlinks every one of their LinkedIn profiles.
Wow, that was awesome. How do you use, or what are you using AI for on LinkedIn?
I am using it at all times for this concept of business intelligence, where I went there, where I'm looking at information access points for my clients, so that they can get access to the right people. So at all points, I'm really taking other data, putting in an AI, a list of data points. Here's an example of it. Right here in San Diego, you have, and I mentioned this when we worked together, I call these things called magic data. So we do really nerdy discussions when we work together. Magic data is this correlated information that's been done for you that you don't have to do it. And here in San Diego and in the rest of the country, they usually have a business journal. We have a San Diego business journal, but within that business journal, you have data already organized. And that data is written down and organized by industries. And so an example here in San Diego, you might have the top women. All the women executives in San Diego are listed inside the San Diego Business Journal. So one of the things I thought about with Frances is if she wants to have influence, she should have access to all those women. And that would interconnect that into LinkedIn. So you're not just thinking about that, you're thinking about influence people, like influential people that can then later help you immediately and then later in life. So there's a point where it could happen so fast, or it builds over time. And everything I'm doing is related to that, like putting the seed in the ground that will grow, could grow very, very fast as a beautiful flower, or it could grow into a tree, an oak tree. And it never stops, but it never stops because you keep building. And my number one rule with everyone, I told them, is to never stop building. So you're at 12,000 contacts right now.
Yes.
And I'm always reminding you to never stop building. Right. You never, and I've just given the example of why you never stop building, right? Because you never stop building because the next connection can open up another door.
What are the you've given me a lot of do's for LinkedIn. What are the don'ts for LinkedIn?
The don'ts for LinkedIn in that space is really not to be too aggressive where when you interconnect with people that you don't provide value to them. So everybody can kind of tell that you're saying, well, I need something for myself, but what about for the other person? And so really you have to come from the idea of win-win. You have to really think about the person you've interconnected to, what value you provide to them, not just what value they provide to you.
Okay. And Shaun, why is it important for us to have our personal profiles on LinkedIn, but what are about our businesses? How important is that to have your business on LinkedIn?
The business directory is actually the way I hacked the software. So when they asked me to break the software, basically I was part of the beta. The reason I figured out how to get access to 30,000 people in 1 year, because you can do 30,000 contacts, right? So they told me when I did the beta of the software, you can have 30,000 contacts, but you need to know them. And I was like, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard in life. Like, how does that make sense? Does anybody know 30,000 people in their entire life? I'm like, 50 people in your head? I don't know. So I took that to the extreme. And in that part of 30,000 contacts, in breaking to get to level of 30,000 contacts in 1 year, I realized I had developed influence. And that influence meant I was interconnected into so many different people that other people would want to connect to me over and over again. And other people would say yes to me. If I released somebody and I added somebody, a lot of people would connect endlessly to me. So that would allow me to have this kind of influence. But you're saying on the other part of it is, how do you really stay within that genuine space? How are you genuine online and not look fake?
Okay. Also, with LinkedIn, there's different groups and different companies to follow. How often do you think someone should be on LinkedIn when you're an entrepreneur and building your brand? How often should we be on that platform?
It solves problems on a daily basis. So, I mean, really, that's a strategic question. Like, so if you've written down a strategic plan, which is something I work with people on, is strategic planning. But when you have a strategic plan, you're going to first look at the plan every day and go, is there something I need access to in this plan that I don't have access to? And then use LinkedIn to go, is there a point, a company, a person, a group that will give me access to help answer the question in my head? And so your response is very much custom response.
Okay.
You know, so when everybody out there is thinking about what they're doing and what the work they're doing, has to put it in that category. What today in my strategic plan, do I have a strategic plan up that I'm working on here, that I'm working on this for my business or for my work or my career? What do I need to get access to solve that problem, to get it?
And I know, because again, you have over 33,000 connections, I know that LinkedIn has also worked for you in an international space, especially with Guadalajara. How does that, or what tips can you, because for me, I'm thinking local. I'm not thinking so much international. And I think if I go back and look at my LinkedIn connections, I could say like maybe 80 to 90% are local connections.
Right.
And my goal this year was to make more international connections. How do you, what tips or what advice do you give us when we're looking out of local and going into international networking spaces?
Well, when I first did 30,000 contacts, what I began to do was siphon people out of the contacts into a private CRM. So my network's around 3 million right now. So
wow.
And they're growing on a daily basis. The same idea I told is that same idea to other people is never stop growing. And the interesting part of what you said is what you're looking for is when you go in, okay, we're going to go to Madrid, Spain, right? You and I are going to get on a plane and go to Madrid, Spain. But before we go to Madrid, Spain, we're going to actually look at all the business informational data in Madrid. You know, that's the city of Madrid. That's the economic development for Madrid. That is all the startup sector of Madrid. That's the co-working spaces in Madrid. That, you know, on and on and on can interconnect, right? So when you arrive in Madrid, you have 100 influential contacts on the ground. Yeah, and before that, you're in a chat with somebody in Madrid saying, I'm arriving in Madrid. Or how about we do a workshop before I arrive? And this is the way I ended up doing international work and international contacts, international development, was first making that win-win scenarios with people in other countries. And then that led to them actually want to meet me here if they come here, right? So it became vice versa. So I guess to remind you what I'm saying is, I don't really think of the world. I think of the global market, and the global is different. We're all one beautiful human race, right? So if you're in Mexico, I love you. If you're in Spain, I love you. If you're in Canada, I love you. You know, so yeah, and we're all just here to help each other. And so what's also interesting about what you just said is you'll be surprised, even if you build local networks, that people are from different countries, from different places in the world. So they have contacts within their contacts that are not local, right? So that second degree level of contacts is the most important part. When we work together, and I think I remind everyone that I worked together when we worked on network building, is that the first degree connections are not the actual network. It's who those people know. That's the actual network. See, the actual network is saying, well, I have 30,000 contacts, but really what I'm concerned about is, who do those 30,000 people know? That's what I'm actually interested in.
Again, so I'm hearing it's always strategically what you're doing prior to either connecting or creating groups.
Mm-hmm. Because it's so vast. It's so vast. When people ask me it's so vast, I'm like, you have to be really like, you're in an ocean.
Yeah, you're laser. You want us to be laser.
You're in an ocean out there, folks. Like, you have to be really, you have to know what you want, and you have to know where to go for what you want. You have to be clear in your head, yes.
Laser focus. Shaun, you're also a master at building Facebook groups. I saw how you were able to build all my connections on Facebook for Francis Prado and Hanging Secrets. In 2025, is that still as important as it was back in 2015? Or where has that changed? Has anything changed of having that online present on Facebook or creating a group?
I mean, if you Google, technically Facebook is the most used social space. I mean, still used. It has developed over time a little differently based on Instagram's prominence, right? And then when Facebook did the buyout, or Meta did the buyout of Instagram really was the destroyer of Facebook. They had no, I mean, I don't mean that in any way. I mean, they were superior to Facebook because they controlled mobile access, and Facebook was invented before everything on our phone. We're doing everything on phones. So Instagram was invented for the mobile world. And so Instagram really has a lot of power in different ways than Facebook, but it also has a generational gap, right? So there's different things happening with older people using Facebook versus younger people using Instagram. But I still think today Facebook groups are very powerful, and they're things you can build very, very quickly, and they do allow you to tap into people that don't use other things. And for all that's out there, with all the discussions that's out there, if something goes viral on Facebook, it's going to go viral somewhere else.
Can you give me an example of what advantages you have by creating your group on Facebook for your business?
The group in Facebook for your business, it allows you to interconnect all your content and feed it into there, every time something new with your business happens. So you're dealing when I was comparing what LinkedIn does and what Facebook does and what Instagram does compared to what LinkedIn does, is that it's a content generation tool, and then building out content into it. So at all points within the Facebook group, you're filtering content about your work and why people should be involved in your work, or you're building a tribe, you're building a community, and by building a community, you're helping many people along with yourself. So by building community is the most important thing that's happened in our world when the social space got built. The ability to build a community quickly, even if you just start with 10 people as a collective idea, collective learning idea. Facebook groups are really powerful, this idea of collective learning. Like, you say, I would like to know the best restaurant and blah, blah, blah. And you got a group of 100 people, and you'll get 50 responses like, I would like to do this romantic thing with my wife. What should I do? As an example, right, of what I'm saying. But I mean, in the business side, you can ask different kind of questions. But when you have a group in there, you have the ability to solve problems in a collective mindset. It's not just your mind working in it; it's all the other people inside of it.
So it's promoting your business, but also making network connections and capitalizing on this platform where you're getting views, where you're getting comments about. So is it more like a more intimate setting versus LinkedIn, Shaun?
LinkedIn groups are also very powerful, but they operate differently than Facebook groups. The Facebook groups, they are just defined in a way that you have to decide whether or not you want to have a massive group or you want to have a very, closely knit 30 or 50 people group. And increasingly what we're looking at is niches and how niche groups work. When I started building out groups that were international groups, connecting people internationally, I began to think, well, the number one thing I had to have is a group of managers running the group. So it couldn't just be me. I had to actually duplicate myself into other people, and that other people actually organically win-win. They get to win because they're managers of the group, and also be able to build the development of the group. So building groups by yourself in Facebook, I really don't recommend it. I recommend that you create a collective. I recommend that you put other people into it so that they win and you win. It doesn't mean that they do the same things you do, but there's more power in the collective than there is in the individual.